I think he set an absolute terrible precedent in the state of California where it's okay to kill somebody after you smoke marijuana.
Reefer madness is now a manslaughter defense.
I could see my own dead body. I could hear voices telling me that in order to bring myself back to life, I would have to kill my boyfriend. Bryn, 27 at the time, and Chad, aged 25, met at a dog park in California in the spring 2018. They bonded over their love for dogs, and the two hit it off, seeing each other regularly thereafter. She really liked Chad, and the relationship seemed to have been at a harmonious start, without any conflicts. In May, Bryn would go to his apartment in Thousand Oaks to spend some time together. Initially, they would watch TV and talk a little just before midnight. This is when Chad would ask if she would like to smoke out of his bong. She took a few hits, but told Chad she didn't feel anything aside from some burning and coughing. About 15 minutes later, when the effects failed to kick in, he then packed the bowl again. "Let's make this more intense for you," he said. He took a light and filled the chamber with smoke, holding his hand over the opening and then moving it towards Bryn to allow her to inhale. Hurry up, you've got to inhale," he said. According to Bryn, she claimed that she did not want to smoke and felt pressured. It all happened so fast. She felt like she couldn't say no and inhaled anyway. She began to feel unwell and had an immediate negative reaction. She went to the bathroom to vomit and started to suffer from blurry vision. She couldn't breathe and felt like she was going to die. That's when the voices started. The voices in her head would tell her to start a fight, at which she listened and went straight to the kitchen, grabbing 3 knives from the knife block. She thought she was dead and was having an out-of-body experience. She claimed to be able to see her own dead body, along with emergency room doctors doing CPR, her family, and unknown voices telling her that the only way she would come back to life is if she killed her boyfriend. The last thing she saw was a hand. Her hand. It was carrying a knife, which then put it in Chad's abdomen. She saw herself as someone else, like in a movie. Then everything went black, with the voices continuing, encouraging her, telling her, "Keep going, don't stop, you're almost there, you can do this." One of Chad's roommates had already gone to bed for the night, but came downstairs after being alarmed by all the noise from the distance. He then saw Bryn over Chad covered in blood, in which Chad called out to the roommate for help. The roommate dialed 911. The sheriff officer responded. On arrival, they found Bryn shrieking, knelt over Chad, hysterically crying, gripping the knife still. She then stabbed her dog and quickly began repeatedly cutting her own face and neck before plunging the knife into her throat. Police repeatedly used a stun gun, but the shocking jolts failed to make her drop the knife. It wasn't until an officer used his retractable steel baton were they able to disarm the knife. He would also strike her 9 times before she stopped resisting. As police subdued Bryn, Chad was pronounced dead at the scene. The case has been described as horrifying and unusually brutal. As body cam from the officers were shown in trial, many of the audience members gasped, cried, or covered their eyes as footage played. Bryn was seen lowering her head, crying as the video played. Her mother broke down, falling to the floor sobbing. Chad's father left the courtroom just before the clip began. Before taking a knife to her dog, and then herself, she had stabbed her boyfriend a total of 108 times throughout his body. According to psychiatrists, after they had seen the footage, they would argue that Bryn appeared to be possessed, suffering from a cannabis-induced psychosis. Prior to the incident, she had only smoked and gotten high maybe 5 to 10 times in her life. Despite cannabis currently being legal recreationally in 24 states, the drug is known to cause psychosis, especially if it is used at high strength. Forensic pathologists also assessed that the stabbing of her own beloved dog, without any evidence of animal cruelty or violent tendencies, is highly inconsistent with her gentle nature towards pets, highlighting the level of her impairment. They claim that in her defense, disconnection from reality due to the drug was important to point out. The sudden onset of hallucinations, disorganized thoughts, and audible hearing of voices, experts would point the blame at the THC. Regular use of quantities above 10% are linked to a higher risk of addiction, violent behavior, and a newly recognized condition called cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome, or scromiting, meaning screaming and violent vomiting. Under California law, a person is seen as responsible for their actions when impaired by drugs or alcohol, unless their intoxication is involuntary. To show her drug use was involuntary, attorneys argued that she could not have foreseen the possible effects of the weed she smoked, that she was coerced or deceived into smoking it, and that there was another substance added to it without her knowledge. Bryn has had no history of mental illness the night before she killed her boyfriend. The defense also described her as being of good character, saying she was an audiologist at UCLA Health, who was working to help others with their hearing, after almost completely losing her own hearing at a young age. Due to these factors, her charge would go from second-degree murder, which would have had a maximum penalty of 25 years in prison, to now a charge of involuntary manslaughter, reducing the maximum penalty to 4 years instead. Studies have shown the level of THC in cannabis products has more than quadrupled over just 2 decades, which leaves doctors concerned and continue to raise the alarm. Cannabis has been shown to put people at a higher risk of health problems, including major depression, bipolar disorder, and psychosis. Professionals claim it's yet another drug that people believe to be safe because of its legality in certain areas. So now more people are trying it. Although the major side effects were previously thought to mostly affect regular users exposed to the drug over many years, doctors are increasingly seeing mental illness in non-regular use cases as well. In Bryn's case, due to the brutality of the crime, jurors took less than 4 hours to find her guilty of involuntary manslaughter in December 2023. Through no fault of her own, the defendant was out of touch with reality, the judge said. The tragedy was 100% caused by cannabis-induced psychosis, in which the judge then sentenced her to 2 years probation as well as 100 hours of community service, avoiding any kind of prison time altogether. At no time in the 5 years and 8 months since the stabbing had Bryn apologized or shown remorse to Chad's family, the family members noted during their impact statements. When it came time for her and her supporters to speak, she finally gave an apology, exclaiming she wished she could go back in time and change her actions. "My actions have ripped your family apart," she said to the victim's family. "I am broken and aching inside. I hurt that you will never see Chad again." Bryn's final comments was that she has promised to spend the rest of her life debunking the myth that cannabis is a harmless drug. As for Bryn's husky era, who was caught in the crossfire, she survived the stab wounds, only to be hit by a car and killed months later. Chad's father believes Bryn acted with malicious intent to kill his son, saying that she knew what she was doing and viciously and prematurely ended his son's life. The father has begun a TikTok channel calling for justice for his son, accusing the judge for being biased, claiming that his ruling sets a dangerous precedent. He just gave everyone in the state of California who smokes marijuana a license to kill someone, the grieving father said. "I've gotten a life sentence without my son. He was just a kind human being. I really don't believe that I have found any justice here in Ventura County, nor has my son been given any justice."